feeling called the blues. Oh, Lord, since my baby said goodbye. Lord, I don't know how to do. All I do is sit and sigh. Oh, Lord, that last long day she said goodbye. Well, Lord,
The performance that you've just heard was the beginning of one of the most brilliant careers that country music has ever seen. The date of that performance was June 11th, 1949, about a month after I was born, and the song was Lovesick Blues. The singer who was making his first appearance on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry at that time was my daddy, Hank Williams. Lovesick Blues wasn't really his first hit record, but it was the song that changed him from an average singer to a superstar almost overnight. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. His story doesn't begin on that Opry stage. It begins back on September 17th, 1923, when Hiram Hank Williams was born in a town called Mount Olive, Alabama. The years ahead were hard ones, not only for the Williams family, but for the South and the country as well. Those were Depression times, when things would have been tough enough without a man at home. But in 1930, Hank's daddy, my granddaddy Alonzo Williams, went into a veterans hospital where he was to remain for 10 years. The courage of Hank's mother, my grandmother Lily, was sorely tried in those years. Not only did she support Hank and his sister Irene during that time, but also took on the job of guiding young Hank in his burning interest, which was music. She helped shape and direct him right from the very beginning, offering herself as counselor and manager and even inspiration in some of his earlier songs. We know that Daddy sat alongside Lily as she played organ at the Mount Olive Baptist Church, and maybe that was the basis for some of his fine sacred songs he was to write in later years. Whether those early days in church inspired him or not, Hank certainly had strong religious convictions inside of him.
Filled with sin, I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. Then Jesus came like a stranger in the night. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Just like a blind man, I wandered along, worries and fears I claimed for my own. Then like the blind man, God gave back his sight. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Straight is the gate and narrow's the way. Now I have traded the wrong for the right. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
They say Daddy was a sad and lonely man, and I guess he was. Many of his songs spoke of that sadness and the hurt that was part of his daily life. Whenever he sang one of these, anyone who ever felt hurt knew that he was singing it for real. Maybe that's why so many people today still claim that he was the greatest of all country soul singers. All the spirit and all the feelings inside him poured out in his music. Every man who bears a terrible hurt shows it in a different way. Hank showed it in his music. There's a lot of stories of him singing on stage, telling the audience, it hurts me a lot worse than it does you. With his songs and his singing, he opened himself up and showed his life to the world.
I try so hard, my dear, to show that you're my every dream. Yet you're afraid each thing I do is just some evil scheme. A memory from your lonesome past keeps us so far apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Another love before my time made your heart sad and blue. And so my heart is paying now for things I didn't do. In anger, unkind words are said that make the teardrops start. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? You'll never know how much it hurts to see you sit and cry. You know you need and want my love, yet you're afraid to try. Why do you run and hide from life? To try it just ain't smart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? There was a time when I believed that you belonged to me. But now I know your heart is shackled to a memory. The more I learn to care for you, the more we drift apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart?
Those who knew anything about Hank Williams know that his personal life was as complicated as his love life, as tragic as any Hollywood movie. He had a loneliness about him that you could feel in the same room, and it left many scars on his spirit. But his loneliness and his tragedies left him with deep, deep feelings, and he had a way of putting that feeling into the words like nobody else, or a song like no other song.
Hear that lonesome whippoorwill, he sounds too blue to fly. The midnight train is whining low. I'm so lonesome I could cry. I've never seen a night so long when time goes crawling by. The moon just went behind the clouds to hide its face and cry. sky. Like me, he's lost the will to live. I'm so lonesome I could cry. Silence of a falling star lights up a purple sky. And as I wonder where you are, I'm so lonesome I could cry.
Yes, a lot of times Hank was so lonesome he could cry, or make you cry listening to his songs. But not all of him, and not all the time. Like any other man, Hank had his other sides too. He loved to be entertained himself, and found baseball games to be one of his major sources of pleasure during those long road trips with the drifting cowboys in the days of no interstates, no buses. Fiddler Jerry Rivers says that Hank wasn't a fan of any particular team. He had a habit that he must have passed on to me of just running up and down the dial on the radio with volume 10 to see whatever game he could get. He even stocked the car with balls and gloves and bats. He and the band could toss the ball around in their spare moments. He also had a love for the outdoors, which I've definitely inherited. Hunting, shooting, fishing, riding. That was his way of relaxing and being closer to life. Riding his horse High Life and hunting with his squirrel dogs, fishing with band members, songwriter friends. During one of those fishing trips with a friend, Hank's mind just wasn't on the crappie that was swimming underneath the boat. A friend turned to Daddy and said, "Did you come here to catch 'em or watch 'em swim by?" Daddy said, "That's it." That was the first line. And in just a few minutes, the two of them had started what was to become another one of Hank's standards.
I went down to the river to watch the fish swim by. But I got to the river so lonesome I wanted to die. Oh, Lord. And then I jumped in the river, but the doggone river was dry. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue. I had me a woman who couldn't be true. She made me for my money and she made me blue. A man needs a woman that he can lean on, but my leaning post is done left and gone. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue. I'm gonna find me a river, one that's cold as ice. And when I find me that river, Lord, I'm gonna pay the price. Oh, Lord, I'm going down in it 3 times, but Lord, I'm only coming up twice. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue. She told me on Sunday she was checking me out. Along about Monday she was nowhere about. And here it is Tuesday, ain't had no news. I got them gone but not forgotten blue. she's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue.
It was the very love for riding and hunting, fishing, getting outdoors that was to have a serious effect on the remainder of Daddy's life. First, there was the fall from the rodeo horse, leaving him with a back injury that was to plague him for the rest of his life. Then an accident while hunting with Jerry Rivers aggravated the injury, and it became necessary for Daddy to undergo serious spinal surgery. Those accidents and several others brought Hank a daily diet of pain, which was relieved only with the pain pills prescribed for him by his doctor. Those same pills were to figure heavily in his untimely death on the cold winter road near Oak Hill, West Virginia.
Now you're looking at a man that's getting kind of mad. I had lots of luck, but it's all been bad. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. My fishing pole's broke, the creek is full of sand. My woman run away with another man. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. My distant uncle passed away and left me quite a batch. And I was living high until the fatal day. A lawyer proved I wasn't born, I was only hatched. Everything's against me and it's got me down. If I jumped in the river, I would probably drown. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. Shabby shoes I'm wearing all the time is full of holes and nails. And brother, if I stepped on a worn out dime, I bet a nickel I could tell you if it was heads or tails. I'm not gonna worry wrinkles in my brow, 'cause nothing's ever gonna be alright no how. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. Elijah was a wooden Indian standing by the door. He fell in love with an Indian maid over in the antique store. Elijah just stood there and never let it show, so she could never answer yes or no. He always wore his Sunday feathers and held a tomahawk. The maiden wore her beads and braids and hoped someday he'd talk. Elijah, too stubborn to ever show a sign, because his heart was made of knotty pine. Oh, Elijah, he never got a kiss. Oh, Elijah, he don't know what he missed. Is it any wonder that his face is red? Elijah, that poor old wooden head. Never went nowhere. His heart was set on the Indian maid with the coal black hair. Elijah just stood there and never let it show, so she could never answer yes or no. And then one day a wealthy customer bought the Indian maid and took her oh so far away, but old Kalijah stayed. Kalijah just stands there as lonely as can be and wishes he was still an old pine tree. Oh, Kalijah, he don't know what he missed. Is there any wonder that his face is red? Kalijah, that poor old wooden head.
Some people have compared Daddy's career to a meteor, and I guess it was. He appeared on the scene and lit up the sky just as bright as any shooting star ever has. And just like a meteor, he blazed briefly and suddenly he's vanished. His whole period of stardom lasted only 3.5 years, from the first time he sang Lovesick Blues on that Grand Ole Opry stage till the time of his untimely death on New Year's Day of 1953. There's a crater out west that was supposed to have been made by a giant meteor way back in history. I think that Daddy made the same kind of impact on the music business as that meteor did on the earth. He left an imprint that'll never be gone. If there was an official starting point to his career, I think it would be the day that he and Mama walked into the WSM radio building where publisher Fred Rose and his son Wesley were playing their usual lunch hour game of ping pong. Mama just walked up to the two men and told them Daddy'd like to sing some of his songs for them. That's not the way people usually go about getting their songs heard these days, but the Roses listened and liked what they heard. They not only signed Daddy to an exclusive songwriter's contract, but they soon got him a recording, first with Sterling Records and later with MGM Records, which was just a young company at that time. And his first record for MGM showed another side of Daddy's character, a rare side of Hank Williams that not too many people know about, the humorous side.
Came in last night at 10:30. That baby of mine wouldn't let me in, so move it on over.
Move it on over.
Move it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, little dog, 'cause the big dog's moving in. She's changed the lock on our front door, and my door key don't fit no more, so get it on over.
Move it on over.
Scoot it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, skinny dog, 'cause the fat dog's moving in. This doghouse here is mighty small, but it's better than no house at all, so ease it on over.
Move it on over.
Drag it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, old dog, 'cause a new dog's moving in. She told me not to play around, but I done let the deal go down, so pack it on over.
Move it on over.
Told it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, nice dog, 'cause a mad dog's moving in. She warned me once, she warned me twice, but I don't take no one's advice, so scratch it on over.
Move it on over.
Shake it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, short dog, 'cause a tall dog's moving in. She'll crawl back to me on her knees. I'll be busy scratching, please, so slide it on over.
Move it on over.
Sneak it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, good dog, 'cause a mad dog's moving in. Remember, pup, before you whine, that side yours and this side mine, so shove it on over.
Move it on over.
Sweep it on over.
Move it on over.
Move over, cold dog, 'cause a hot dog's moving in.
That song was just one small example of Daddy's great country sense of humor. In most of the pictures I've seen of him, there was that unforgettable grin and that special sparkle in his eye that said he was a man who really enjoyed his laughs. Once when Daddy was a member of the Grand Ole Opry, he was planning to sing one of his latest records on stage. The song he was going to sing was My Bucket's Got a Hole in It. But the song had some lines about beer, and the Opry had a strict rule against the mention of any alcoholic beverages on stage. Eventually, the Opry officials agreed to let Daddy sing the song if he rewrote the part about the beer. I guess they figured he would have to rewrite the whole song since almost every line rhymed with beer, but he didn't. He just sang the song exactly as it was, and every time he came to the word beer, like it was supposed to go, he shouted milk. I don't know if the Opry people thought it was funny or not, but the audience loved it. I think Daddy did too. Then there was a time when he was in some club singing Lovesick Blues, and some heckler in the audience was bugging him for singing that song so often. Daddy said, I've made $24,000 out of this song so far this year. If you got a song that you've made 24 out of, I'll start singing yours. After he recorded Move It On Over, things moved quickly. He got a regular spot on the Louisiana Hayride in Shreveport, and finally came the song that made him a superstar, Lovesick Blues. One of the few songs that he ever recorded himself that he did not write.
I got a feeling called the blues, oh Lord, since my baby said goodbye. Lord, I don't know how to do. All I do is sit and sigh. Oh Lord, that last long day she said goodbye. Well, Lord, I thought I would cry. She'll do me, she'll do you. She's got that kind of loving. Lord, I love to hear her when she calls me sweet Daddy, such a beautiful dream. I hate to think it's all over. I've lost my heart, it seems. I've grown so used to you somehow. Lord, I'm nobody's sugar daddy now, and I'm lonesome. I got the lovesick blues. Well, I'm in love with a beautiful gal. That's what's the matter with me. Well, I'm in love with a beautiful gal, but she don't care about me. Lord, I tried and I tried to keep her satisfied, but she just wouldn't stay. So now that she is leaving, this is all I can say. I got a feeling called the blues, oh Lord, since my baby said goodbye. Lord, I don't know how to do. All I do is sit and sigh. Oh Lord, that last long day she said goodbye. Well, Lord, I thought I would cry. She'll do me, she'll do you. She's got that kind of loving. Lord, I love to hear her when she calls me sweet Daddy, such a beautiful dream. I hate to think it's all over. I've lost my heart, it seems. I've grown so used to you somehow. Lord, I'm nobody's sugar daddy now, and I'm lonesome. I got the lovesick blues.
It wasn't long before Daddy was the biggest name in country music and beginning to make a noticeable imprint on the pop music field. The success of Lovesick Blues in the country market caused Kay Starr to record the song in the pop field, a move which eventually proved quite successful for her. But even then, Hank's own songs had been showing up on the pop charts in the hands of many different artists. Cold, Cold Heart launched the career of Tony Bennett, while Your Cheating Heart did a great deal to establish Joni James as a major artist. Tony Bennett later had a pop hit with There'll Be No Teardrops Tonight. Rosemary Clooney did the same with Half As Much. Joe Stafford and Frankie Lane teamed up for a hit on Hey Good Lookin'. From the early 50s, when Tommy Edwards hit with You Win Again. Again in the later 50s, Again You Win Again, this time with Jerry Lee Lewis. To the early 70s, when B.J. Thomas climbed the pop charts with I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Hank's songs have continued to be passed along from generation to generation in all popular forms of music, also as instrumentals. No music critic can limit the appeal of I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love With You to just country music fans, just as no historian can claim that I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry has become outdated. The facts show that Hank's songs have gone far beyond the boundaries of markets and time. People will always be lonely, and people will always cry.
Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry and try to sleep, but sleep won't come the whole night through. Your cheating heart will tell on you when tears come down like falling rain. You'll toss around and call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Someday and crave the love you threw away. The time will come when you'll be blue. Your cheating heart will tell on you when tears come down like falling rain. And call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on you.
Until now, I've spoken of Daddy only as others saw him, sorrowful, humorous, struggling, successful. Most of the day-to-day facts about him I've had to learn from his friends and fellow performers. I've heard a lot of them. Some of them true, some of them false. Since he died when I was only 3.5 years old, I don't have very many personal memories of him. I do remember one scene at Lake Martin where I fell in looking at a crab and got a little too close. Daddy pulled me out of the water. I remember sitting by a radio with our maid, Catherine, and hearing him close his early morning radio show by saying, "Keep the biscuits warm, Catherine. Bo Cephas, I'll be coming home soon." Bo Cephas was his pet name for me, and when I'd hear those words on the radio, I knew I'd be seeing Daddy in just a little bit. Among the songs or stories he wrote, there was a recitation very few people know about. This is one of the greatest works that I've heard of Daddy's. Any father can really appreciate one that he wrote for me called Little Bo Cephas. Little Bo Cephas, you're the one that makes me feel good inside. Just to know that you're my son makes my heart swell with pride. I've always needed one like you to love and understand. And now that you've come to fill that place, you're my buddy, man to man. There comes a time, though, when every boy grows so doggone sure with life that he feels he knows it all and no longer needs advice. This complicated phase of his life is called the adolescent age, and sometimes breaks a father's heart. Wish you could skip that stage. I'd like to help you fill your heart with kindness and faith and truth, protect you from the hands that reach out to destroy manhood in you. There is so much sorrow and despair to blight the hearts of men, and the more we learn of love and life, the more they come crowding in. It's just little things at first, my son, but then as we older grow, our troubles grow much bigger too and sometimes overflow. Then poisoned minds and broken hearts will cause the strongest men to weep, overwhelm souls with bitterness, and death would be sweet. So we must build a strong defense of love and fortitude, on character and knowledge, son, so these ills cannot intrude. Oh, sonny boy, so many things a youngster needs to know if he is to find true happiness as down through life he goes. It's just a father's love, I guess, that comes to every dad, that makes me want to shelter you from the things that make you sad. Bocephus, boy, I'm standing by to help you when you call. For son, you are my flesh and blood, and the grandest pal of all.
Today I passed you on the street, and my heart fell at your feet. I can't help it if I'm with you. Somebody else stood by your side, and he looked so satisfied. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. A picture from the past came slowly stealing as I brushed your arm and walked so close to you. Then suddenly I got that old time feeling. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you. It's hard to know another's lips will kiss you and hold you just the way I used to do. Oh, heaven only knows how much I miss you. I can't help it if I'm still in love with you.
Many youngsters have grown up not knowing their fathers. I know I'm not alone in that, but those things that Daddy left behind have made me come to feel so close to knowing him without knowing him at all. He'll always be a shadow that I could never quite touch. Like so many other kids without fathers, I missed him when I was a little boy. I missed the man who would take me fishing, the man who'd say, "I'll be home soon, Bocephus." But now that I'm older, I've learned to miss him as a man who may have well been the greatest talent that country music has ever known. It's probably selfish, but for years I've wished that just once I could have sung a duet with Hank Williams. Just as millions of his fans, who never even saw or even heard of him until 10 years after his death, wish that they could have seen him. His songs, his singing on record, draws you to Hank. It's a thought that's haunted me for years. If I could only have shook his hand once, played his guitar, stood on the stage, or watched him sing one song. That would have been the experience of my life. But the closest I ever came to having that wish fulfilled came about electronically when my voice was dubbed over Daddy's own record. It was quite a thrill. It's got quite an effect. The result sounded like this.
Like a bird that's lost its maiden flight, I'm alone and oh so blue tonight. Like a piece of driftwood on the sea, may you never be alone like me. When you whispered, dare I worship thee? Now here am I alone and blue, all because I love no one but you. I gave up my friends, I left my home. When you promised to be mine alone, now you're gone, our love could never be. May you never be alone like me.
Well, I've sat here talking about Hank Williams for quite a while now. Hank Williams, songwriter, Hank Williams, singer, Hank Williams, father. Some people tell us of his drinking problem and have called him irresponsible, while others say he was a genius. We know he was the idol of millions, and yet his music tells us how lonely he was. Personally, I agree with those who call him one of the most creative of all country music artists. And yet at the same time, there's a lot of us that have done him a great disservice. We've overlooked the fact that he was firstly a man, a good man. He was the Hank who stopped along a roadside once, gave $500 to a small community who was building a new church. He saw in his travels. He was the Hank whose drinking caused him to break many personal commitments. He might miss a show 3 or 4 times in a town, but when he made it, the place was packed. The Hank who sometimes had to fight his way on and off stage in some of the rough honky-tonks in the early 40s. The same one who made secret donations to a Catholic orphanage, though he himself was not a Catholic. There was the Hank whose voice once cried, as he sang I Saw the Light to Minnie Pearl. That's just it, Minnie. There ain't no light. There just ain't no light. And that was the same voice that would laugh when it would say, don't worry, 'cause nothing's gonna turn out right nohow. Or Bocephus, I'll be home soon. He was a genius, drinker, legend, and to untold millions, as to me, he was just Hank. They say Hank was a mighty heavy drinker. I don't know. They say Hank was a mighty heavy thinker. I reckon that's so. All the songs he wrote, everything he said, it didn't come from a light thinker's head. Some say whiskey wrecked Hank's health, but they don't know. They say Hank sung a real good song, and I'll say he did. 'Cause he opened up his heart and he poured out the soul that most of the folks always keep hid. Yes, he did. As long as I live, I'll never forget. He's the first singer that I ever met. They say he's the greatest one yet. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if that ain't so. They tell me Hank, he wasn't much on looks. I don't know. Lord, I've seen his picture in lots of songbooks, but I still don't know. They said he was weak for the women and wine, and he looked plumb heartsick all of the time. His songs put goosebumps right on my spine, that's all I know. They say Hank sung a real good song, and I'll say he did. Because he opened up his heart and he poured out the soul that most other singers always keep hid. Yes, he did. Long as I live, I'm gonna regret I can't remember him singing me to bed. They say he's the greatest one yet. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if that ain't so. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised at all